Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of the Electronic Gaming Mostly podcast. I'm Seeker127.
And it's the Gabler
He's back. We both
as
made it
the
for a
not
second week.
sidekick.
We're each other's sidekicks.
Yeah.
We're kind of a
We're all
half split.
heroes in our own mind.
Yeah, I'm the hero. The hero of my own story.
Yeah.
Stream
That's how it
hero.
works.
So, what's been going on this week? We'll start with you.
Well, I've been playing World of Warcraft and SCUM. That's about it. I mean,
Yeah, me too. I had some internet issues. I had,
Yeah.
4 texts out in the last 2 weeks from Spectrum. Piece of advice, if you're out there and you're looking at ISPs, don't pick Spectrum if you have the choice. So I finally fucked with my firewall. They finally decided, the problem is jitter. I'm like, yeah,
What does that mean?
that sounds about right. And I don't know if they actually came to do maintenance or if fucking with the firewall did it, but it's been much better the last couple days. So we're just gonna go full steam ahead on the streaming.
yeah, my experience with Spectrum is they come out, they do some stuff, it's fine for a few days, and then right back to bed.
Yeah, well, if that happens, then they'll be getting another phone call. Eventually, it's going to be cheaper for them to just fix their shit than to keep sending texts out. Or they're going to try to do something where they charge me to have texts come out, which is not happening.
Pretty standard though.
Yeah.
Also, not really gaming related, but talked to a real estate person. I'm getting a new house. Well, it's the first house that I'm going to own. But in this weird situation because we have to move, but then my wife has to go to India for 3 weeks as part of her
Sounds
job.
awful.
Yeah, she's going to a 5-star hotel in India, which is an American operated
Motel 6, yeah.
hotel.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
It's the Marriott, so it's American owned and operated, and they told her that when she's there, not to use the tap water.
Oh, do
If
they
you're
have
gonna
some
brush
kind of Montezuma's Revenge type situation going on?
If you're gonna brush your teeth there, you're supposed to use the bottled water they provide, that the hotel provides. Because the hotel doesn't have any choice with the way the government works there. So apparently the tap water just smells like piss because they don't know how to do reverse osmosis in India. I guess they separated from the British before they got that technology, and they just never figured it out. So they
Wow.
just filter the water and they recycle it.
Ugh. So there might actually be piss in the water.
There might actually be piss in the water. It smells like piss. People have said, like her people she talks to have said that, the hotel lobby smells like piss because you can't do anything about it because it's just the water there smells like piss.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I don't envy that.
Yeah.
3 weeks? That sounds like a really long time.
Yeah, the worst part is she's got to do her laundry at some point while she's there. So that's
Oh, God. She's
that's
going
a
to come back
minefield.
smelling like piss.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I
Going
guess.
through airport
But the
security.
worst-
Ma'am, why does everything smell like piss?
Another terrible thing about it is that if it kind of puts us in a little bit of a rush to get a house because
Why do you have to move? Why now?
monetary situations. I live with my mother and her. The state has fucked her over with her Social Security, and she's just not getting her Social Security check this month. So that's great. Pay into a system for retirement, and they don't have the money because they keep pocketing it. Ew.
Damn. Well, on, on a more cheerful note, let's get into the game discussion before Gabler ends up on the street.
Yeah. I mean, it
So
was fun.
how was your experience with World of Warcraft this week?
I got to 120 on my Demon Hunter. I think I'm sticking to the Demon Hunter. I feel good about it. I like the warrior class. I like warlock, but they just don't draw me in like the Demon Hunter does. I'm sorry. I just want to do damage. I want to kill stuff quickly, and the Demon Hunter does that. I still like the mobility. When they take flying away from me, I can't get over the fact that with my Demon Hunter, I can if I'm up high somewhere, I'm just gliding over everything with Fell Rush coming off cooldown constantly. But
Is your mastery still affecting your just passive run speed?
yeah, which is also great.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I mean, it's yeah, and it makes that secondary Azurite trait that gives you increased run speed. I think they buffed that up to a maximum of 4% instead of 3%. Whoa.
Whoa, hey.
Well, if you get that twice, if you get three of those, you get 12% speed on top of what you already get as a demon hunter, which I think I'm currently at 10%. I can get pretty fast, honestly, if I play it right. But yeah, I just hit 120 last night, but I've been playing that. I haven't been playing a whole lot of WoW actually this week.
Yeah, me
It's
neither.
been a little
I've
slow.
been kind of bored. I mean, I don't really want to play my mage yet until they fix some things, if they fix some things, and I'm kind of tired of DPS, especially as a mage, because it's like I work so friggin' hard to get all the gear and get the rotations down and minimize downtime just to have average to below average DPS.
Yeah,
It
that's the
kind
best
of
thing
pisses
about
me
playing
off.
tank or healer is you're useful and good all season long. You know, the entire expansion.
Yeah, and that's why I
Nobody catches it.
started leveling my priest. I still hate Shadow. I mean, if you're doing DPS in a raid or a dungeon, Shadow might be good, but just leveling out in the world, all your DPS is based around your insanity and going into void form, which you can't really take full advantage of when everything dies at the speed that it does. Like it lasts a good while. It's probably 10 to 15 seconds of having that void form damage boost, but
Mm.
starting at like level 111, I switched back to discipline, and it was actually doing kind of the same amount of damage as Shadow. Not so much anymore because I'm up to like 113 or something. But
Mhm.
I like the survivability of discipline. I'd rather have it take longer. But I can't play that game for more than 2 hours anymore because it's just the leveling is so friggin' boring.
Yeah,
And
I
it's like
think the
I've
big
just done it on my
I
mage.
think yeah, the problem is we didn't pick the right characters when we started off.
Well, none of them
So
felt
now
good. Like I'm
I
trying
mean
out new ones, and they
I've
still
leveled
none of them feel good.
three characters now to 120 in the course of 2 weeks. I am just so sick and tired of that island. I like when I went through on my Demon Hunter, I made a rule where I don't stay in a zone until it's completed. I'll finish the main storyline and then I'll come back to it and do side quests. I even found myself go back to Storm Song Valley and then leave before I finished the side quest. I left that area before I finished. I was like, okay, I can't do more Storm Song Valley.
Well, I think the main
Which
problem is when I level, I like to use my guide and just mindlessly go through it while I'm listening to music or something. It's not a very good stream thing to do though. So
yeah.
it kind of fills in the time that I'm waiting for you to get online, or if I like, and I don't play a whole lot of games if I'm not streaming. So I've only still gotten my mage to 120, and everything else is kind of significantly lower than that. So
Well, Tuesday they're releasing War Fronts and all that. So
like part of me just wants to kind of finish the war campaign and grind out the rep on my mage because I have a feeling that once you do all that, there's going to be certain things you'll be able to skip on alts. If not
yeah.
now, then eventually. And I'm already so close on
Well,
my
they'll probably
mage.
put the leveling gear on that after the first patch or something. They'll probably up the leveling gears level. I guess they're going to just keep adding these arbitrary items that you have to buy to level it up. I don't know why they
Yeah.
just don't make them go to max level. Whatever. They're so Blizzard's kind of scummy sometimes, man. They'll just you already have to buy currently if you don't have legacy armor for leveling, you have to buy a piece that caps at level 60 and then you have to buy another item that bumps it up to I don't even know what the
Yeah,
number
I
is,
think it goes from
100.
60 to 90 to 100 to 110.
It's
And it's expensive.
yeah, yeah,
It's
that's it.
really expensive.
It's very expensive. Unnecessarily expensive.
I mean,
It's
it's better than it used to be because it used to just be literally a piece of gear. Now you're kind of buying the recipe
I
and you
mean
can
all they
just
need
make
to
it whenever you
do
want.
all they have to do and had to do was have one item that levels it up to the current tier of max level. Like that's all they had. I don't know why they do these dumb things where they're
Well, I
like,
mean,
let's
that's
just
essentially what's happened, but it's happened several times to where they don't combine them into one item anymore. It's just, one at a time, 60 to 90 to 100 to 110, whatever.
I think it's just to get more gold out of you.
Yeah, of course it is. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know why. There's something to do with like the economy, trying to balance their economies by spending gold on NPCs. But like, I don't really know how that works. It doesn't really make sense to me.
It doesn't even matter at this point. There's no economy in World of Warcraft. There's an auction house where people don't understand the value of items, and that's it. You have a bunch of people that just don't get it. Like, you don't put a. The reason why things are really expensive in the new expansion early on is because raiders want to get raiding and mythic dungeon runners want to get mythicking, but they didn't take the time to level up their herbalism or their alchemy or something like that. So they're willing to buy it from you on the auction house. Well, that's not the case anymore because Blizzard has this dumb thing where they decide to gate that content for a couple weeks. So people that are alchemists and herbalists that then instead of leveling work on their profession so they can put it up on the auction house for really high prices. I get that they think that there's a supply demand system going on there, but the reality is that it's just not necessary anymore. The raiders and stuff like that, once they hit 120, they have time to work on their profession.
I mean, I don't ever remember buying gear for the sake of like, oh, I need this gear piece because that's really low compared to all my other stuff. If I buy gear, it's usually because it's a transmog or something for a quest. But I don't know where these people get off paying $10,000-$20,000 for or gold dollars. Jesus, they probably would pay that much, but you know, I don't know why the people are putting gear like that on the auction house, and people are actually paying those prices. And it seems like the value of WoW gold is even going down. If you look at the WoW token prices right before the expansion, that was up to almost 210,000. It's lost almost 100,000 gold in value.
The gold value has definitely dropped, and it's because Blizzard, I don't know, I feel like they mess around with stuff too much. You got a big giant 5 million gold mount that the only benefit to it is it has an auctioneer on it.
I mean, that's pretty cool, but I mean, even
that's for the auction guy, I guess, but like the person that manipulates the auction house. But there's no economy. They keep trying to act like there's an economy in this game. There's not an economy. It's just people that don't understand the price value of things. Somebody goes to the auction house and they have an item that they want to put on the auction. They search and see what somebody else has valued it at. And then they either undercut them or sell it at the same price.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's an artificial economy because in a real economy, money doesn't just disappear into the ether like when you spend money on repairs or pay an NPC for something. So, I mean, there's kind of one, but not really.
I can understand the idea of gold sinks from back in the day because, you know, in vanilla WoW, the only way you made gold, basically, was through the auction house. You could not just go do quests. Nothing dropped more than some silver. Like, you couldn't farm out enemies or something like that. It wasn't a thing. And you didn't just get a lot. I mean, I rated 40-man Nax, which was probably the hardest content in the game ever. These people running mythic raids think they're running difficult stuff. I had to wake up, farm rum tub tubers. I had to farm grave moss so that I could make shadow potions. I had to farm all the ingredients I needed for my health potions. And then I would have time to log on my friend's rogue because I didn't have time to level one and go to Fellwood and farm fell cloth off of enemies there so that I could put them one at a time on the auction house for like a couple gold a piece. And then hopefully have earned 60 gold so that I'd have enough to repair my full tier 2 set after a night of wiping on Lotheb for like 6 hours. 6 hours of wiping on Lotheb trying to kill that boss, where back in the day, once you healed somebody as a healer, you couldn't heal again for like 2 minutes. So all the healing was done to only the main tank. You had 6 healers rotating one single heal. They'd get to cast one heal on their tank, and then they'd have to wait for the rest of the healers to do their rotation on it. And all the DPS got no heals. They had to use like a rotation of potions, shadow protection potions, bandage, everything you could think of. And you'd have to kill him in a certain amount of time. We got that guy to 1%, by the way, before we ended up stopping before Burning Crusade, like most guilds do, kind of just sitting on the sideline until the next expansion. But there's a progression guild. Storm scale. What's up?
Yeah, so I don't know. Overall, this expansion isn't sucking me in like Legion did. Legion, I was on my mage pretty much for the first 3 months, wanting to get as far as I could, getting as much gear as I could. But I think a big part of it is there's no artifact stuff to shoot for. Like, it felt like I was getting more powerful. Here it's just random Azurite trait rolls, which really don't do a whole lot.
There's no progression other than gear. In Legion, every time you got enough artifact power to level up your weapon, it was exciting. You go back to your class, order hall, whatever, and you'd get a new trait, and the traits were pretty good. You had things like decreasing the cooldown on some of your big cooldowns, and it's to a significant degree. Increasing your damage on certain abilities. It was great. Now it's this Azurite armor trait stuff that's okay, but if you don't have the levels to get the traits, it almost feels like you're not complete is all it is.
Yeah, and even once you get all that gear, I don't even know how it's going to feel. It might still feel like shit.
Well, the biggest problem is, in order for it to be effective, you have to match things up. You have to get like 3 stacks of a certain thing. Certainly, I guess you could be middle of the pack, kind of. I have one of each, but it's just not as good.
Well, it's just grinding out gear you already have, which is not great, because you open up your artifact or your Azurite armor, and it's like, okay, do you want this passive that affects all specs, but it's kind of shitty, or do you want your spec specific one that's also kind of shitty? Like, okay, well, I guess I'll pick the one for my spec. And then the next one is like, do you want this heal or do you want this movement speed increase? Both of which are very underwhelming. And then the third one, always 100% of the time, is increase the item level by 5.
Yeah.
Like, wow. 5.
Pretty weak.
Like, they don't feel good.
That would have been way better if it was like some really good thing. Like an ability, maybe. Like an actual active ability that they give you.
Yeah, like maybe some of the stuff they took away from you, from your artifact weapon.
Or legendaries. Or
a legendary.
I think that's what Azurite armor should have been. I think we talked about this a little bit before on the last podcast. Maybe we didn't. I've just mentioned it so many times that I can't even tell. But I feel like Azurite armor should just have had legendary concepts on them. Like, instead of, if you want to get rid of the legendary system because you don't like it, and then the Azurite armor is the new legendary system. The pieces have the final, slot is a legendary type trait or something like that, or ability that changes the way you play the class. I think a lot of people have talked about that too and mentioned it. And Ian Hazacostas,
let me tell you why you're wrong.
Yeah, let me,
that's all I hear him say, honestly.
If you want legendaries, Legion alt is there for you. You can go back to Legion with an alt character that you level up to 110, and then you can go disable your experience gains and play Legion.
With who? Like, is there a group of people that do that?
I mean, he didn't say that. I'm just kidding, but like, Jesus.
Yeah, that's a sad commentary on the state. Like, I believed you. That sounds like something he would say. I don't know. I have to force myself to level up this priest now. And I don't like being in that situation. I don't like having to force myself to play World of Warcraft. But that's what it feels like I have to do.
Well, there's a lot of time from now to the next expansion.
That is true.
World of Warcraft's that game that just keeps bringing you back intermittently, I mean, I know how you play games. Me personally, I'll dip into WoW here and there. I mean, I'll certainly be playing it more in the next coming days to a couple weeks now that I have the class that I want at max level. But I'm not even really excited about raiding. I mean, I want to, but I'm not super excited about it. It doesn't. This is just so far the expansion's a little meh. I know it's going to be a slow start, and then it'll probably get really interesting in the first content patch and things like that. But
I mean, I know it's like the fastest selling WoW expansion to date, but I really hope that a lot of these people start dropping off and that Blizzard sees that and realizes that
yeah.
they got to change something.
Well, they need to listen to a little bit of feedback to some degree on this one. People just aren't happy with the Azerite. It's not good. It's not great. I feel like the Azerite traits need more work. The current top tier Azerite trait for a demon hunter that's Havoc, at least, is like some passive lightning bolt crap that it doesn't even change your rotation. So it's not even some cool stuff that's like do your blade dance more often or something like that.
Hey, do me a favor. Pull up that. What was that thing you were reading off yesterday about the Azerite traits and all the stuff that Hazakosis was saying and how ridiculous it sounds now that we've actually played the game?
Oh yeah. That was their old interview from. Oh God, I think I was Googling it and I brought it up. I don't even know how to spell his name.
Take a guess. Google knows. I remember there was the one where he was talking about the active versus passive Azerite traits.
Yeah, he said. So this is what he says. He said the art Azerite traits. There are already a lot of Azerite traits that are gameplay modifying. That's true to some degree, but
everything you add to the game is gameplay modifying. You have to quantify that with the degree of how much it's modifying.
So there's an Azerite trait that's like second or third on the list of what's best for a Havoc Demon Hunter that sets it up to where whenever the last hit on an enemy with your blade dance does extra damage. And you can stack this to 3 times and it does a lot of damage. But and that'll make you want to do blade dance on single targets more often. I already do that anyways because I take first blood, but whatever. It makes it better. But if to people that wouldn't play like that, it would certainly make them use blade dance on single targets. So that would technically change up their gameplay. Or like if you got the one that when you fell rush, it causes your demon form to slam down and do damage. You would start fell rushing on single targets, which is really annoying. But so but the best one for demon hunters is a passive lightning bolt. So it doesn't matter how many Azerite traits are gameplay modifying. And this is the big problem with Blizzard that they don't understand. There will always be the best option.
Yeah.
Always.
If they haven't learned that with their new talent system by now, then I don't know if they're ever going to learn it. Because ever since they changed the talent system to this tiered thing, I mean, it's always been like, this is the one path you need to take if you're going to raid, if you're going to do dungeons, if you're going to be solo leveling. And I don't know, they keep going in there trying to make different talents competitive with each other on the same row, and they're just not.
Well, there's all this stuff that's just useless right now. I was talking about this the other day when we were streaming. There's a talent row for demon hunters. Most of the talent rows for demon hunters, and I'm sure this is true with most classes, there's just talents that are so useless they shouldn't even be there because nobody should be picking them. And you could argue all day that there's some mouth breather somewhere that's picking it. That's not a reason to keep it. It's terrible. There's no competition between talents. Like some classes, maybe like mages, if they want an AOE versus single target, sure. There's so many talent rows.
Well, I mean, even mages, when there are competitive talents, it's stuff we've had at the same time in past expansions. It's not adding anything new. It's not.
Well, that's necessarily true, though. That's just like it's better for you to take the other talents in that situation.
Well, no, I'm not going to go into it again. But like last week, the whole Flame On versus Phoenix Flames, adding the legendary abilities to 2 of the talent rows. Like I used to have all those in Legion.
Flame On just better all around. I mean, you
get more
Phoenix Flames, but Flame On's better, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's better in the sense that you get more Pyroblast. procs,
Right. So
but
I
you miss
mean,
out
maybe
on a lot of other things.
in an AOE situation, it might be, Phoenix Flames, but Flame On is just better all around for single target, right? So you would
Yeah,
never consider. I mean, there might be people out there who's like, I still like Phoenix Flame, so I'm going to take it over Flame On, but they're just wrong. Is what the problem is. Those people
yeah.
are just wrong. So it's almost pointless. It's not really a competition.
I mean,
The
I'm tempted to like go back and switch back to fire and change my talents up, like get rid of pyroclasm and take meteor again. Because I'm still taking pyroclasm, even though mathematically it's not as good for single target or AOE. And
Maybe
meteor's
math
better
is
on both
just
of
too
those.
hard for Blizzard. I don't know. I get that math is difficult. I don't like math, but there's got to be people out there on their team or that they could hire that can figure this shit out to where the numbers are close enough that they're actually competitive.
Look, anyone could go out there and use simulation craft. I've done it. It's not that hard. You import a character with all your gear. You pick a fight style, some other modifiers, and you hit go, and it sims your DPS.
I guess there's certainly there's people that would take a 1%, 2% increase in damage, but I think if you got it down to small percentages like that, 1 to 2%, people would start choosing based off their play style because they wouldn't be so concerned with 2%. What's 2% of a million damage, right? It's not that big of a
2
deal.
million damage. I'm Blizzard. Get it? I'm Blizzard.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I think that that's really what they need to start looking at.
And I don't think they're gonna. I was talking to someone on my stream the other day about all this kind of stuff, and I told them I think this game has one, maybe two more expansions left in it before it stops and they come out with something else.
Yeah, I think that lines up with the storytelling as well. I think there's just a few left.
I mean, that's another 4 to 6 years. I mean, even that's too long.
Well, if you look at Blizzard and the player base, every expansion's always kind of been something different. Certainly, they've had expansions that have been like demon focused. You look at the Burning Crusade and Legion as examples. You got to separate those. You can't have those back to back. I mean, you could, but it's gonna be, you're gonna lose people because there's gonna be a lot of people going, "Oh, we just did this. I want to see something new." So right now, in terms of the lore, you have Azshara, who's going to be working for N'Zoth, who's the last old god. The old gods work for the Void Lords, which are the new big enemy. Certainly, the Legion isn't completely defeated. I mean, we think the Legion's defeated. Sargeras, yes, he's not dead. He's, trapped or whatever, being held prisoner, or maybe he's being reformed. Who knows? By his brothers and sisters and the Titans and Illidan, it could come back and be a presence. Maybe he gets a redemption arc. Who knows what they're going to do with that? But when you're looking in terms of big enemies, there's no more big enemies. Certainly Blizzard can pull out these random lame expansions. I don't know though, because everything's been a big enemy. Even Miss Pandaria. Miss Pandaria was a big enemy. The entire time you're dealing with the blood of an old god.
Now, what's the big enemy here? They're trying to make it out to be Sylvanas, kind of, but then after the cutscene, there's nothing.
It's going to be N'Zoth. N'Zoth is the final old god. He's trapped beneath the ocean somewhere. He's responsible for the Emerald Nightmare. He's responsible for the Curse of Flesh, as he calls it. He's responsible for Azshara, and she's going to be a big player in the next upcoming patches. And he'll probably be the final boss of the expansion. Now, they could draw this out a little bit. They could make this expansion focused on Azshara and have her be the final boss if they're smart about it and want to drag this out a little further. And then the next expansion could be some kind of all the old gods are resurrected and it's an old god, full-on old god expansion. And then,
I don't think that's necessary at all.
Well, the problem starts to happen with the Void Lords. Once you get past this final old god, which can't take that long, once you get past that, you're already past the Legion. The only enemy threat you have are the Void Lords, and you can't have 6 to 7 expansions after that are just fighting shadow enemies. It'd just be the same. Certainly, there's a lot of planets out there, and there's a lot that can be done, and there's really infinite possibilities if Blizzard's creative about it. but I don't think they're creative at all. Just listen to Ian Hazzikostas talk about classes with Azerite. The team
Yeah.
keeps having to keep giving you something new, just to give you something new. No, you have to give people something new as a reward for leveling, man. Like there has to be a reward for leveling.
Yeah, I think I might have mentioned this last week, but that is probably my overall biggest problem with this expansion is you always seem weaker as you're leveling, and it's just worse this time. It's gone on. The game has gone on for so long that it's really hard for them apparently to give you a sense of progression that you're building on all you've accomplished in the last expansion. Feels like you're losing it all.
Gear. They focus way too much on items.
You're only as good as the clothes you wear.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
And like Abe Lincoln said
Dragons that. And never, when you played, the Vampire Hunter. When you play Dungeons and Dragons, your gear, you get wondrous items and magical gear all the time, but it's nothing amazing. It'll increase your stats a little bit and give you some cool little thing like, oh, I got these boots that let me fly sometimes. That's great, cool, awesome. In World of Warcraft, it's like I got these boots that give me like 160 agility. Now I'm more like what? What is that? That should be on your character. That kind of progression should be on your character.
Doesn't it seem to you that he's just being a negative Nancy? Right? It's like, hey, why don't you make gear unique? Well, then everyone will be overpowered.
Just dodging is all he's doing.
Why can't we have more abilities? Oh, because it creates bloat. It's like, but we also don't want everyone to feel homogenized in the same. It's like, well, they do.
Well, then get creative and stop making the same damn abilities.
But then everyone will be overpowered.
So? That's the whole point. It's a fantasy game.
Yeah.
I want to feel like a hero.
But they are obsessed with this whole system of balance. And maybe it's just because he's a raid designer. Where maybe that's more important than it is out in the open world. But you got war mode now, so like you don't have to worry about getting ganked by people. Yeah, bloat is fine. I like
bloat. I like having a totem that I only use 1% of the time playing the game.
I mean, speaking of bloat, why the fuck do I have remove curse again?
Yeah, what is that? Like, we don't want bloat, but we brought back these useless buffs and shit. That's just to make you feel good. I don't know. We're spending too much time on this jackass. Ian Hazzikostas.
Last thing I'll say, because you brought it up, those buffs do not make you feel good when the game is balancing around you having those. 90% of the time I forget to even activate them because I haven't done it since like Cataclysm.
That's why they took it out in the first place. It's like Ian was an idiot and didn't pay attention to what was going on. He's been around since Wrath of the Lich King as the raid designer. Like, maybe you should have paid attention what was going on in the boardrooms when they were meeting. Like, the reason why those buffs were removed is because you just end up balancing the encounters around those buffs. And then when people go into those encounters and don't have those buffs, they're at a disadvantage. It's supposed to be it's called a buff for a reason. Like, hey, let's get ahead of this content by drinking flasks and eating food and getting all these buffs. No, now it's just required.
Yeah, that's the problem with all that stuff. Is like, if you want to raid seriously, then you need all that stuff. Like, people will ridicule you endlessly if you don't have a flask on or you don't have your whatever that other thing was in Legion.
Yeah, it's some kind of incompetence. I don't understand what his problem is.
I mean, I would much rather them remove all those buffs that are, quote, necessary for raiding and add bloat in the form of utility or just more spells, more abilities, things to change things up, make your rotation better, or not even have a single rotation. Have several viable rotations depending on the situation.
There needs to be way more utility abilities just for fun. Talents shouldn't be about DPS increases. Talents should be actual, like, fun things to pick between. Do you want some kind of random portal, or like when you think about like the Warlock, I know it's baked in right now and I'm just using it as an example. I'm not saying that these should be talents, because Blizzard certainly shouldn't be allowed to just take shit you already have and put it on the talent tree. Ian Hazzikostas is. Imagine if you had to choose as a Warlock. Imagine if a talent row was, instead of a DPS increase, and some of them do this, but I'm saying all talents should be like this. You had to choose between, the portal that you place down and then you can teleport back to it anytime, or the portal that connects between two places that you can, right click on and it shoots you somewhere, or some kind of other portal that does a different thing. Those are your three options. That's how a talent row should look like. Which one of these do you like the most in terms of utility and fun? And it still has impact on the gameplay for raiders and PvPers, but it's just utility stuff. It's nothing crazy. It's not like, well, do you want to take this ability that increases your DPS by 15% on the numbers, or do you want to take this ability that increases your DPS by 20% on the numbers, or this ability that doesn't work at all? That's what the talent trees are at like right now.
Yeah.
Which one am I going to take? Gee, I fucking wonder.
I don't know why this is, but it's almost like they don't know what they're doing when it comes to the talents for certain specs. Because I'll go back to fire. There's a row where one of the talents I can pick is have 2 charges of Frost Nova. That's a fire mage.
That's great for PvP, sure. But that should be a PvP talent.
Yeah. Or why is that even in fire? I mean, they replaced the ice barrier with blazing barrier and prismatic barrier for different specs. It's like they started moving in that direction, then they just stopped. I just can't believe they did that in the middle of an expansion. You would think if they truly went in there and reworked the classes like they claim to have done for this one, stuff like that would have been changed. And not only that, they've already added more animations and more effects to all the spells and abilities, especially warlocks. So like, why isn't there anything that's like, it's a Frost Nova still, but it's Fire Nova, and it fucking melts the soles of your shoes to the ground, and that's why you're stuck there. Like, I don't know. I am a no.
There's no creativity at Blizzard, man. It's just, I don't know what to do. I mean, here's an idea. Just take Frost Nova away from fire mages and make it to where they can survive more damage or something. If you can't figure something out, work around. Who are hiring these people? This is like basic level stuff for a company. Hey, can you come up with something for the fire mage so we can start having them be just about fire? Okay, boss. All right, it's been a week. What do you got? I don't know. We're just still going to stick with Frost Nova. Okay, well, you're fired, and I'm going to get somebody else that can do it. Or at least I'm moving you to a position where you can't make this kind of damaging decisions anymore and cost me a week of time. I mean, that's basic shit.
All right, well, we can continue the World of Warcraft conversation next week because I want to get on to other things. But
by the way, you don't have to explain it like the shoes melt to the floor. All it has to be is some kind of like fire effect at your feet, and nobody would question it.
Yeah. Whatever.
Immobilized. Your feet are burning. That's all it has to say on the tooltip.
Hot Foot Nova.
Hot feet. All right.
All right. So, Dead Cells and retro games. I've been playing a lot of Dead Cells the last couple weeks. I know you haven't been playing as much of it, but I still really like it. Yeah, especially, like, I'm not really a fan of roguelikes. I didn't play a whole lot of, like, Binding of Isaac and that kind of thing, but this game I like. I like the fact that everything you do, there's kind of a sense of progression, and not everything resets when you die. Like, you're supposed to die and, like, slowly chip away at the overall progression of doing all this. Yes, but now it's just gotten to the point where it's kind of too hard for me. I've made it to 2 boss cells. It goes up to 4.
When you make the game difficult in the beginning, you got to ramp it up in the end, right?
Yeah,
that is kind of an issue.
I don't know if you've beaten the final boss yet, but every time you beat the boss, you get a boss cell, which you activate at the beginning of every run, and it makes it more difficult, and you get some different gear. I don't really understand the purpose of using them. That's why I haven't been doing it a whole lot. You do get more cells to spend, but you also die more often. So it's kind of a trade-off. I end up kind of getting the same amount of cells. And I die a lot more because the damage...
Sounds like you're getting close to some kind of like, you got to do a cheese build every single time type deal.
Well, it's not necessarily a cheese build. It's just synergy. You know, like I came across one that I almost beat the game on 2 boss cells with, where I got... I was using a green, which generally gives you more health and survivability than the other colors. And I got a colorless electric whip. which normally isn't green, but it was colorless, and it did 300% increased damage, but I took 300% increased damage. But the way it auto tracks enemies and how fast it goes and how much damage it was doing, it didn't even matter.
The whips aren't actually that bad once you get some good ones.
You just have to find a way to get the damage up. Its default damage is really bad.
I don't
especially
know.
for some of the enemies.
Some of the whips that I found were pretty good. I used them for a good bit. They're so fast. They stun lock and go through enemy shields and things like that. Yeah, I guess some benefits to them.
There are some benefits, but it's got to have some kind of damage buff because they just don't do enough damage by their default. Well, even if it's just something simple.
Workshop stuff, so maybe there's something in there.
Yeah, and I've been wanting to try that. The only problem with that is that every time you activate a mod, which you can only activate, as far as I can tell, one mod at a time, you have to restart all your progress. So that's why I haven't done that yet. But it's funny because I was using the electric whip build, and I take a lot of damage, but I do a lot of damage, and I open up a chest, and it's one of those chests where a bunch of bats and shit come out of it, and they just like wrecked me down to like a 1 health. So I don't know if you know this, but you know when you get hit and you see your life bar go down, there's that orange meter that slowly goes down?
Yeah.
Okay, well that's the amount of health you can get back if you attack fast enough.
Oh, so they got a bloodborne system.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was getting hit and almost dying, but because I was killing so many enemies so quickly with that whip, I didn't take any damage. I got like 3/4 of my health back. I had like 8,000 health or something. I got most of that back just by spamming a button. So I think it's really interesting the way that there's kind of these synergies and there's just so many weapons to pick from and like the advantages of picking all these colors. They did a really good job. And it's actually gotten me into looking for other games that are similar. So, I got that Salt and Sanctuary game that we still haven't played a whole lot of, which is more slow-paced and more like a 2D version of Dark Souls. And apparently there's a lot more. Apparently there's like a whole genre of these games you've probably never heard of that are like these Metroidvania type things. Now, the thing I think would be really cool is I've been kind of dying to play Symphony of the Night again. And I kind of want like a full game that's like that, instead of it being a roguelike. So, I don't know, maybe Salt and Sanctuary is that game. But, I don't know. It's different. It's kind of unfortunate, too, because if you have Xbox 360, or maybe even Xbox One on the Xbox Live Arcade, you can get Symphony of the Night. You can also get Resident Evil Code Veronica, but you can't get them on PC.
Well, I'm excited about our Resident Evil plays. I've been thinking about bumping it earlier, but we got to keep the schedule.
We can do whatever we want.
November is going to be rough. Yeah, but I want to do it leading up to the remake.
Well, I think what we should do is, I don't know, maybe in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks or something, play through Resident Evil 2 and 3 since you've never played them. And we'll still do our lead up to the game, but we'll just skip the ones you didn't like. Because I'm telling you, Resident Evil 2, the original, is going to be pretty long because it's basically 4 games in one.
We got a whole month to play it.
Yeah, I know, but dude, they pushed back Battlefield 5 to November.
Yeah, I know. That just means that November is going to have more shit to do on it.
Yeah, so, I mean, instead of forcing ourselves to play like other games we don't really want to.
Battlefield 5 for weeks and weeks. Back to back, though, I mean.
Yeah, maybe not, but it's definitely going to get in the way of playing straight through all our Resident Evils. Well, I'm just saying. Plus, I mean, I want to do that because I don't want to be pushing it to the very end to figure out how to play Resident Evil 2. Since I don't have a capture card, I got to find it on PC somewhere. And with this whole emulator thing blowing up, Shite's getting shut down all of a sudden.
I'll look into it. That's just one site. There's plenty of other ones. All right. We'll do that.
So yeah, I've been kind of trying to look for good retro games, but it's tough. It's tough to like look at a game on Steam and decide whether it's worth buying and playing.
Well, it's tough to look for those in terms of like, I know there's some really good old PC games out there, but the Steam store isn't very helpful in finding those. Like you can't just search in the store retro and it comes up because it's all based on the title.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate too because when you look at a game in the store page, it has tags associated with it, and Metroidvania is one of them, but you can't search by that.
Yeah, you can't. You got to click on tags and go to like recommended tags and global tags, and then you got to go down and scroll through everything and read every damn thing. And it's not in alphabetical order for some dumbass reason. I just
I
there's
mean, I was searching for
28,000 tags. Okay,
yeah.
28,000 tags in the global tags. They're not. If they were in alphabetical, it would be fine, but they're not.
I mean, I was just looking through popular new releases yesterday, and I'm still getting stuff like Witcher 3 Game of the Year edition. Like, it was giving me old games. I'm like, why are these here? So, I mean, it could be like Netflix, right? Where it just filters out shit that it assumes you don't want to see,
Maybe.
even though I do want to see them. So, I don't know. I mean, Steam is great at a lot of things, but discovering new games, not so much.
There you can see that Steam is also spying on people because one of my recommended tags is political. Oh yeah, oh yeah, Steam. Huh?
Gotta love those political video games. C-SPAN, the video game.
Apparently, This Is the Police is a political game.
Papers, Please. Does that count?
Yeah, well, that one, yeah, I'd call that political. Sure. Crusader Kings? What?
Let's say if you're playing that game, I mean, I know nothing about that game, but if you go into Crusader Kings from a political perspective, that's the wrong perspective to have.
Yeah, it's not political at all. It's like Risk. Risk is not political. But there's politics in it. You got to choose policies. Oh, and Civilization 5 is also politics. Got it. Okay, you're an idiot. Moving on. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about here with this other shit coming up.
Yeah, so that's really all I wanted to say about Dead Cells is then I've been enjoying it as a filler game.
It's a good
I
game.
don't feel like I need to commit time to it if I don't want. I can just jump into it and
If you enjoy difficult games or like roguelike side scrollers, it's a good game.
the last thing I'll say, I've never played a game where I died so much with no frustration. That's the only game that doesn't absolutely trigger me when I fail. All right, so next up is Death Stranding, which, there hasn't been a whole lot of news about, but I've just been seeing more and more people jump on this bandwagon of fuck Death Stranding. Once I saw the gameplay, I wasn't excited anymore.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, why? It's Kojima.
Well, we haven't even seen gameplay really.
Yeah, you've seen
we saw some shots of him running.
Yeah, I mean, if you were expecting it to be Metal Gear Solid, I don't know why you would expect it to be Metal Gear Solid, but that's not what this is. And trust me, with a Kojima game, you're not going to be able to divine much out of it just by looking at pre-release trailers and gameplay footage. It's going to be completely different than what you think. It always is.
There will be a gameplay trailer that focuses on exactly how you play the game when it comes out. Like if you look back on, the Phantom Pain, we had a bunch of trailers that didn't show anything at all. Really, they were just artsy fartsy things because that's how Kojima is. And then eventually got that big gameplay trailer that ran for like 7 minutes, the Red Band trailer, and it was amazing. It showed you like the time passing mechanic. It showed you all the crawling animate, like how you could crawl around, how light was a big deal. It showed a lot of stuff like that. But even then, it still didn't give you the full-on aspect of what the game was going to be like in terms of gameplay. It's not. I think gamers today are a little too up their own ass. There are some game developers. There are some game developers that will release a trailer and it'll be some lady or some guy talking over some gameplay footage, and they'll explain to you exactly in detail every single thing that you can do in the game and how the game is played and things like that. And then there's game developers that do more traditional trailers where you get a little bit of gameplay as a teaser. I mean, it's not a standard. People need to stop acting like it's some kind of standard. Like, oh, Red Dead Redemption released their trailer. Rockstar does their trailer where some lady talks to you and it tells you exactly how. So? Then go play that fucking game.
Yeah.
Death Stranding is going to be a weird game. First of all, because it's Kojima.
Yeah, well, that's a given.
It's going to be. I think what he's trying to do is a stealth survival horror game. I think that's what he's doing. Now, when I say survival horror, you think about like Resident Evil. It's not meant to be.
No,
I
I
mean,
mean,
originally it was meant to be scary, but it's not really meant to be. It's not really scary. So it's not. I don't think it's
I
gonna
think it's more
be.
atmosphere. He's going for the horror survival type atmosphere. I think he got a
Yeah,
jonesing for it when he was working on Silent Hill, and he
yeah.
kind of wants to bring some of that over. But he
You know,
also, he has probably more experience with stealth than anything. Why would you not incorporate
yeah.
some
The
stealth into it?
aspect of sneaking around these creatures that can just kill you is scary. It's gonna be kind of scary like that. And I'm certain. I mean, the guy managed to slot in a pretty good experience in the Phantom Pain with that segment where you go through and shoot your own soldiers because they're, you
Oh
know,
yeah,
all fucked up. And that was kind of horrifying. I thought zombies were going to be a thing. I honestly did. I thought,
they kind of were.
uh,
Let's face it.
well, they kind of were, yeah. uh, that was
The
kind
only
of
thing that I'm a
kind of
little
creepy.
hesitant about is the invisible enemy thing. I don't know why Japanese developers think people like invisible enemies. It's not good. So I hope that that's not like the core mechanic of the game, or that it's not
Yeah,
too frustrating or
it's.
cheap.
I'm thinking it's just a product of the story. I think they're dimensional creatures. It seems like, for what I've gathered from looking into the game over time, is the game is going to be about Earth, and there was an impact, and it brought some kind of beings or creatures from another dimension. If it's not an impact-based system, because they call it something. The extinction factor is what he has. That's what they call it. Uh, so it's either something like that or something was drummed up in a laboratory, some kind of like Half-Life esque, interdimensional portal opening type shit. And I think you're gonna end. That's kind of thing. I don't know what the floating people are about and all that. Kojima is a very artsy person, so all the strands connecting people with the umbilical cord stuff. That's, who knows, man. Maybe there's some creature
Yeah.
in space that they're all connected to.
No,
That's
I think I think
extra-dimensional.
the most important thing you said there was who knows. I don't know why these people are taking like a hard and
Yeah,
fast
all you
stance
can
against
do,
this
yeah.
game without knowing shit about it. To even
All
think
you
you
can
know
do is
anything about this
speculate.
game so far, you're an idiot. Because it's, first of all, it's Kojima, and second of all, you haven't seen much. Those two things together, I mean, who knows? It could come out and just be Metal Gear Solid 6. It could be PT. This could all be fake. It could just be.
So
Nope.
it might be the first time he's done some crazy stuff. I mean, it's all speculation at this point. They could be connecting to some kind of umbilical creature that's in the atmosphere, surrounding the planet. That's just, it's in another dimension, so you can't see it, but it kind of phases in and out, and it's like slowly eating the life force of the planet, like some kind of planet consumer of another dimension. And I don't know. What we do know is that the character you play as is Sam, and he's a delivery guy. He delivers shit. But this idea that people are like, you're just gonna be running through fields, man. Do people even pay attention? There's a segment where he pulls a gun out of a case. So what's the point of having a gun if you can't shoot things? You're clearly going to be able to shoot things. Now, it may be that there are enemy NPCs, like human enemies in the game that want to steal your shit, or that want to try to harass you. You're talking about a post-apocalyptic game. Typically in those games, the zombies aren't just the only bad guys. And Kojima's watched The Walking Dead. He's a fan of all these things. He's not going to be like, oh yeah, the only bad guys are the people floating in the sky. No, there's going to be people that are bad too. Kojima hits on those notes all the time.
Yeah. I mean, if Kojima wasn't making this game, I probably wouldn't have taken much interest in it. But I have a little bit more faith in him than maybe I should have. Maybe it will suck, but I doubt it. I don't see how it could.
It might suck, but it might be great and an interesting experience. I mean, there's this like interesting shit called the time fall, which is this rainfall that ages organic matter. People are always asking dumb shit like, why doesn't it age the clothing? Like, what do you mean? Why doesn't it age the clothing? It ages organic material.
Yeah, so they make their clothes out of nylon or something.
Yeah, or plastic or rubber, or well, maybe not rubber, but yeah. Whatever. It's like living materials, whatever.
Don't start to
Um,
point out plot holes until you know the plot.
yeah, don't exactly. The creatures when they walk seem to have like stuff grow up around them. People don't understand stuff too. So like in the trailer, the girl cries when the creature's walking around. That's like an actual psychological thing, by the way. There's some like I don't remember it off the top of my head because I'm not that smart, but I read into it. There's actually some kind of like chemical compound thing that's supposed to do that to you as a human. And that's what Kojima's playing with. Like this guy reads shit, okay? This guy reads books.
God, our shelf a reader.
This guy reads books and shit, but there's like some really like high-end psychology type shit going on with the girl crying whenever these things come around. And that's what's led people in the community, because there's people out there that are looking into this already and like trying to figure out what's going on, and they're smarter than I am, and they have figured out, you know, and it all lines up with like extra dimensional creatures and stuff like that. That's why they cry. The handprints and stuff, that's probably just some kind of artsy stuff where like he lost his family or something. You know, that they talk about how Lindsay Wagner, who's a famous old 80s actor.
Yeah, she does the Sleep Number bed commercials now.
Yeah, it took Kojima 3 hours to explain the game and sell her on the role. Okay?
This podcast is not brought to you by the Sleep Number mattress. Could be. Open to sponsorship. Just saying. All right, continue.
Somebody asked, Kojima Productions said, yes, Death Stranding has a set release date. How else would we be able to set a budget?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, people are always saying stuff like, does this game have a release date? Of course it does, you idiot.
Here's what people don't understand is games get release dates very, very early on, but they don't announce it because it could get pushed back.
Most people understand that, except for these new gamers that play Fortnite all the time and don't pay attention to shit. By the way, Kojima Productions also said the release date is before the Tokyo Olympic Games and before the new Akira.
I think people just need to ask the more pertinent questions. When are you going to announce the release date? You know?
Yeah.
One step at a time. Because even like Todd Howard just came out and said like, yeah, I know when Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, but I'd be an idiot to tell you. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what he said. Because God forbid you say that it's going to come out, late 2019. You got to push it back a year for one reason or another.
Well, let's not.
You don't want to. You don't want to deal with that blowback from the community.
There's apparently a death and purgatory system in Death Stranding. When you die, and Kojima talked about this early on with the game. He wants to make a game where when you die, it's not game over. So what happens is when you die in the game, you fuck up that area forever. You can't go back there. This is why I think it's a survival horror game. What other reason would you have to go back to a location other than resources and things like that? You have to have a reason for people not want to die, or else they'll just be like, well, I'll just fucking die.
Well, that's interesting because that must mean that there's few or no areas in the game that are 100% required in order to beat it.
That's right.
Because you could just end your fucking game if you die in the wrong place.
So there's purgatory. So when you die, you go into a purgatory, and then you get out of purgatory, and the area you come back to is now a crater, that because you've, the thing has happened or whatever. They talk about that in the trailer. The guy's like, you have the extinction factor, you'll be fine, but that area will be decimated. So that's cool. The role of the baby, nobody knows what it is. It's probably some cloned creature. You can only speculate at this point. Obviously, it's capable of detecting the extra-dimensional creatures. Maybe it has something to do with, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. There's no way.
And the gameplay trailer seemed to be completely different. Like, people's opinions pivoted like 180 degrees between the Mads Mikkelsen thing and the new gameplay stuff.
Well, yeah, you have to combine those together. If you look back at the Mads Mikkelsen gameplay trailer with Guillermo del Toro, he's in kind of a World War II kind of setting. I mean, obviously, it's not World War II; it's the future. But it looks like they've taken tanks and soldiers from an old era and done something with it. What does that mean? The planes flying through the air were definitely World War II era, but they had the strands coming off of them. Is this some time travel stuff that's going on? There is time fall in the game, so there might be time travel situations. He's clearly a villain with the way he's set up, and that shows you that there's much more going on here. And if you look at the third trailer, even the third trailer the second trailer after the Mads Mikkelsen trailer, where they have the old man that falls to the ground and starts aging and all of that shit. Mad's character shows up, he just teleports on top of the truck, and he even does his like little, shush and then points kind of thing. So maybe he's not really a villain. He's kind of an anti-hero. I don't know, but he's maybe there's different levels to the powers you can get from these things. She talks about how he talks about in the last trailer, he says, I have the extinction factor, but it's not as good as yours because he can only sense them. She can apparently see them. Maybe there's different levels. Maybe the Mads Mikkelsen's character is like some fucking government agent guy that's been injected with shit, and he can teleport and shit and use it even more. So there's a lot of cool stuff that's going on here. I think people need to calm the fuck down, because it might be really interesting shit where you start off as a delivery boy and later on you're teleporting around and shit. Okay?
Yeah, I just keep an open mind. I mean, you need one if you're a Kojima fan, really.
Yeah. By the way, Lindsay Wagner played the Bionic Woman, and that's why Kojima likes her. She's younger in the trailer, but she's actually an old woman.
Well, not old, mid-50s maybe.
Yeah, that's still old.
Yeah, I'm going to remind you said that when you're in your mid-50s. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything more we can really speculate on with Death Stranding. They haven't showed a whole lot.
That's about all I got.
So let's move on to this new game called SCUM, which we have pretty different opinions on this. So I'll let you talk, and then you let me talk. So go ahead. Opening statement.
Well, they're already doing a patch soon. They've teased it. They put out a picture on Twitter or some shit where the developer is talking about a good patch. It's a standard survival game. If you like DayZ, you'll probably think that SCUM is way better because it just does a lot of things right. Certainly, it's not perfect. It still needs something to do it in game. Currently, it's the gameplay loop is gather gear and survive. And it's to hit on the survival point real quick. It's very deep. You have an entire tab dedicated to metabolism, and you don't have to really pay attention to all the deep parts of it. I mean, I think I don't really pay attention to it a lot. I know you can give yourself a heart attack and stuff like that, and some things just aren't in the game for that menu yet. There's going to be later on diseases. They have all the pills in right now as loot for all the types of things you can get, like parasites. But right now you can just drink out of rivers and it's not a problem. Later you'll probably have to boil the water or sanitize it in some way. They don't have a really system to get blood back and all that. So there's a lot of detailed things they still need to add to get on the same level of loot as DayZ standalone. But there's a lot of things they're doing right. Glitch through a wall, which granted they need to fix that. The AI is a little botched right now on the robots. They have these big giant death robots that protect some of the high-end military loot areas. And I like it. I think that's good. I think that's a smart decision, because if you look at DayZ, there's nothing protecting the airfields and things like that. You just go there and you get shot immediately by people just camping it. This way, I can't imagine that certainly you could stay at the airfield with all the robots walking around and try to shoot people and stuff, but it's not like DayZ where you can just see a far distance at all times with like binoculars or something like that and see people running in. There's so much to say about this game in terms of like how much better it is than DayZ. I love survival games, and Ark, as an example, is probably one of the best survival games out there just in terms of things to do. And I attribute things to do in terms of how much content there is, like how many items, and Ark adds that concept of mounting. You can tame dinosaurs and mount them and use them as mounts, or use them as haulers, or use them to farm things. And I think that's good. But Ark suffers from the same thing SCUM does right now, where there's really nothing to do. You look at a game like Subnautica, although it's more story driven, it does have a goal to get to, and I think more survival games need that. Even Minecraft kind of set that standard with, I know it's not a great ending, but it's still a goal to move towards. Obviously that's not what survival games are about, But for some people, just existing in a world and doing stuff nonstop isn't enough. I think that's what Scum needs. And there's a lot of ways that they could do that.
All right. Well, before we go on to that, let me give my impressions. You talked enough. So I'm not really a huge fan of survival games. Gabller knows this. Mostly because how a game plays, like how it performs, is kind of a big deal on my overall enjoyment. If I'm constantly dealing with stutteriness and shit, it kind of takes me out of the whole experience. And so far, most survival games have been pretty shitty. And Scum is no exception. I tried turning all the graphics down, and it still didn't really do a whole lot. I had to turn the rendering scale to 50%, so I'm basically playing in standard definition.
To get it to stream, though, not just to play it.
Well, even playing it, it would have been playing at a stuttery 45 frames per second, which I guess I could deal with, but I'd rather play at a lower resolution at, 60 frames per second, but we got that sorted out. My problem is it kind of feels like most of the weapons don't feel good. The guns are okay, but I don't like the whole hit V to aim down sights, but not really, but then hit tap right click to actually aim down your sights in first person. It just doesn't, it's hard to do things quickly if you're getting attacked by a swarm of zombies. It's kind of confusing. I've been playing first person shooters my whole life with a certain control scheme, so when they try to incorporate that in a different way, it's a lot to get used to, and I don't really see why they need to do that, but that's just another thing. The main thing is, like you said, there's just not a whole lot to do. You kind of get in there, you loot some stuff, you make some stuff, and then that's it. Like, I've played that game one day, probably 6-7 hours of it, and I feel like I've seen all I need to see. If I had to rate the game right now, I'd give it a 4 out of 10, probably. And I recognize that it's early access. It does have potential, but as of right now, I don't see the point. Now, there were some funny moments. Go check them out. I made some Twitch clips, listeners. Go check those out. But, I mean, if you're just on your own, or if you don't have hilarious people to play with like I do, we're great. Watch our stream. Then there's not going to be a whole lot for you there. The crafting, I mean, I do like the crafting in the sense that you don't actually need to craft, because it's just kind of a way to get things that you need before you find better stuff. The best stuff is found. So, I mean, that's good because I don't like the crafting. I think that menu system and the whole metabolism tab is way too overcomplicated to the point where I don't know what's in the game and what's not. I don't know what the downside is of being malnourished. I don't know what it means that my sodium level's at 360%. So, I mean, I don't know what that...
Heart attack.
Yeah, but I didn't have a heart attack. I'm here sprinting around the whole world. I know. So, I don't know. There's not a whole lot there for me. And that's all I got to say about that.
Well, I think Scum's a good game for what it is. It's got a lot of potential. It needs vehicles. It needs base building. It needs end goals. I like the idea of, they've talked about some story-based stuff about, eventually being able to like rebel. Because the idea is you're on a prison island and you were put there by a group to be entertainment for people. So you're supposed to be able to like rebel against that later on. And yeah, I think it's going to be, if they go in that direction, it'll be good. If they take too long to do that, it won't be. And one of the big downfalls for PUBG, in my opinion, I know people think that Fortnite was just better. I disagree. I think the problem with PUBG was that they stopped doing quick updates. They used to update every 2 weeks. Then they changed that to, well, we're going to update whenever we feel like it. And that was lame. When the game was always changing, it gave people a sense of hope that at some point they could nail it. And then when they started going every couple months as an update, that's when people started going, well, I'm not going to sit on this shitty patch for 3 months.
Yeah, and then they released it before it was actually finished. It could have still been in early access at this very moment, and I wouldn't have blamed them. What was I going to say? Something about PUBG.
But that's all I have to say really about Scum. It's it's a decent survival game. It's got a lot of, if you like DayZ, you're gonna like Scum better. That's all I'll say.
I just see a lot of words getting thrown around from these reviewers, like amazing.
It's a
Like
good
it's
game.
yeah, it's fine
Not
for a
everybody
little
likes
while.
survival games. It's that I get it. If there was a goal, that'd be great. If gearing up and then going to do something was a goal, that'd be fine. But there's currently no goal in the game. So
Yeah,
right
well, that's the
now it's
problem. Is a lot of games, most games have like high and low points, right? There's always a point where you get bored, but there's something that keeps you driving forward. There's something you want to do. I mean, World of Warcraft has a lot of this. Look at all the shit I don't want to do, but have to do to get to the shit I want to do. Most games aren't quite that extreme. But this game, when you get bored and you just find yourself in a moment where you're like, why am I even doing this? You know, and really it's just exploration. And we've talked about this before. If you're going to have exploration in a game, there has to be something to explore other than just scenery. Like some kind of visual storytelling, like Far Cry 5 does really well. Just stuff laying around that if you stop and look at it, you can kind of put the evidence together and put together what happened in that area. Or there has to be some kind of material reward, good
well, to be fair
weapons.
to the game, it's early access right now.
I
So
know, but
probably
leaving that
was the
aside,
worst time to get you into the game. I thought you'd like it because I knew you liked PUBG and the way the game plays. Maybe if we had maybe if the server was more populated and there were more people to kill, it'd be fun. I mean, right now there's just nothing to do unless you're on a server with other people, and then PvP is the thing to do.
yeah, but then I mean I'll hold judgment on PvP, but if it's anything like PUBG, that's only gonna hurt it, not help it.
Well, I don't mean in the terms of like the connectivity. Like when we shot that guy the other day on the server, there was no desync issues. The bullet went where you aimed it. I mean, I killed the guy with a pistol shot to the ass, which is exactly where I was aiming. like, uh, and you shot at his head and hit. You can see it in the clip. It lines up perfectly. So far, I've noted there's no desync. I don't even see zombies like, back in the day playing DayZ, the zombies would like slide on the ground sometimes because the animations weren't correctly done, or they would like skitter across the ground a little bit, like jump in a jumpy kind of jittery fashion because the server was trying to communicate with me. This game doesn't do that whole server side bullshit. A
Well, we'll
lot of stuff
see.
is client side.
We'll see when there's 100 people or whatever the maximum is in one of those servers, because I think that's a big reason why PUBG has such big desync
I
issues.
don't
Is
think
just the
so. I
number of
think it's
people.
because they do a lot of shit server side. There's this weird thing where these BR games want to do everything server side to prevent cheaters, but it doesn't work. It doesn't prevent cheaters. I mean, everything on Scum is client side to a whole lot, to a large degree. If you go through a town and somebody's already been there and looted it, there's loot there for you because it's client side loot, unless you're in a group and then it's shared between the group. But like PUBG does everything server side, which is a thing H1Z1 used to do and DayZ did. It's from DayZ, like player. I don't know. It's this weird system with Arma 2 mods and DayZ. Everything was server side for some reason. Even like they even talked about like back in the day when they would talk about DayZ standalone, they would talk about like, oh, all the rendering is done on server side. Like, what the fuck? What are you talking
Why?
about? So weird.
Here is something that I think would make Scum a lot better that they can do pretty quickly. I think is every time you hover over a piece of gear or an item that you pick up, it'll tell you what it's for. Like when I come
Yeah,
across a
that'd be
piece of
nice.
rubber, it's like, well, do I need this? Because your inventory is very limited. Like I like the whole aspect where every piece of clothing that you put on has a certain amount of inventory spaces.
Mhm.
What I don't like is their whole select system. I must have dropped 3 pistols on the ground without ever knowing it.
They need a hip holster or something, the ability to put the gun in a belt or something like that. Like putting it in your pants pocket is a problem because if you're holding the pistol and you pick something up and it goes in that slot, now you just drop the gun because it doesn't know where to go.
Yeah, I don't
Or
like
you,
the whole like every time you click on something, it selects that item and until you deselect it.
yeah, that's a little weird.
It's very cumbersome right now.
Yeah, it's early access. They just entered early access. It's gonna take a while. It'll be another year
Look, we
before.
we've established that it's early access. Like, I'm not gonna keep using that as an excuse. Like, yeah, maybe they'll fix it. You know,
Well,
I'm gonna make
it
my
is an
judgment now.
excuse though.
No, I
It is an
mean,
excuse because people that buy early access, you're buying into an alpha or beta system situation.
yeah, I'm
You're
aware of that,
buying
but
finished product.
I'm not gonna keep, you know, just telling myself like, hey, yeah, I like this game because it will be good one day. I don't like it right
Well,
now.
it
I
might
might
be.
like it later, but these are the reasons I don't like it right now. That's
Yeah, that's
all.
fine. It's feedback and everything. That's good. But I just don't think you can hold it against them yet. Like if they planned on doing something like that and just haven't gotten around to it, you know, certainly in its current state, as is, it needs a lot of work.
Yeah, and
100%.
um, God, I keep forgetting what I want to say. What a shitty podcast.
Yeah, let's go to Fortnite.
All right, Fortnite is not a huge deal. I saw this video on Facebook where people are trying to use stretching to get an advantage of Fortnite.
Stretching, I'm like, what? It only works in Counter Strike.
Yeah, so first of all, this doesn't even work in Fortnite, but people are trying to get it to work anyway. Basically, what stretching is imagine, like, remember the early days of HD TV where HD TVs were out and purchasable, but nobody was broadcasting in HD, so you would always get this stretched out image. That's basically what you do. You lower your resolution to a 4:3 ratio and then stretch that image out with the idea is that you're making the hitboxes bigger and increasing your frame rate. That works in Counter-Strike, but it doesn't work in Fortnite.
Old Counter Strike, by the way.
Yeah.
Not CSGO. And that's because the old models in Counter Strike used a different hitbox system that isn't used anymore to this day.
So now this should tell you a lot about the Fortnite community. You got all these people walking around with their game looking like shit, thinking they're getting an advantage, and they're not. And that's really all I had to say about Fortnite specifically.
It's all relative too, because it's not like your crosshairs are still small and you're having more real estate for your crosshairs on the player that you're shooting at. It's all relative. Like the movements are the same in terms of per pixel movement. So this kind of goes back to what we were talking about before. I don't know if it was the last podcast or just a stream we were talking about. I think you have all these kids on the internet joining the internet and they're seeing old shit and trying to apply it to current times.
Yeah, Kojima was right. We need some kind of AI to filter out all the bullshit that's on the internet.
Right? It's all this old information and people come and see it and they're like, oh, I'll do that in Fortnite. You got to look further, man.
Well, let me sidebar this a little bit, because how many times have you gone and tried to search for something for a game that's been out for a while or a game that was in early access, and Google results are just fucking results that are old information that are years old.
The search engines use relevance as the mainstay, and I think new needs to be the default option, not relevance.
Yeah, so I don't want to really get into all that, but yeah, it's that's what's happening. But what I really wanted to get into was this whole kind of gamer mentality of using cheese strats, borderline exploits, bending the rules of the game to get every advantage that they can.
Oh yeah, that's gamer.
And not only that, but developers encouraging that kind of behavior. The best example I can think of, and probably one of the older examples I can think of, is I don't know, is it quick scoping? Is that what they call it in Counter-Strike?
Yeah.
When you have an AWP and instead of shooting and let the animation play out with pulling the bolt back, you like quickly switch to your knife and back again.
Yeah.
Now they took that out for a while and people were livid until they put it back in. And that's probably the reason I'll never make it as a pro gamer, because I refuse to train myself in that kind of mentality and muscle memory and all that. I'd rather play the game legit and win that way. And this
fun.
stretching thing is
one of the most enjoyable things for me when it comes to using sniper rifles is the bolt being pulled back and ejecting the round and rebolting. Like, it just, I don't know. I like that.
Yeah, I think Battlefield does it right. I know I've been sucking Battlefield's dick a lot lately, but until you got the straight pull in Battlefield 4, you couldn't even fire another round until you unscoped and pulled the bolt back. You had to manually de-scope. It wouldn't just pull you out of it. So, I mean, this is just another one of those examples, this Fortnite stretching thing. Like, if you're not going to play the game correctly, then don't play the game. And, you know, it's the same thing, like Destiny did it. Fucking Fortnite's doing it. Counter-Strike did it.
It's a very
I'm kind of tired
solution.
of it.
You just, no accuracy until you zoom in for a second. 1/1000 of a second. There goes your accuracy.
Well,
And
I
when it
mean,
comes
see,
to like rebolting and stuff, you have to unscope and let it bolt. And if somebody switches, nope, doesn't count.
well, that kind of leads into my other problem with in general with shooters. If you're talking about sniper rifles specifically, like the AWP in Counter Strike is, I don't know what's going on. You could shoot a bullet when you're not scoped in and it ends up behind you. Like, I'm exaggerating, but guns aren't less accurate because you're not aiming down sights.
Well,
You
the
just can't
problem
aim
with
as
the
well.
AWP is that it one shots people in the chest, and they don't want you just hip firing, killing people constantly. People would be doing that. Well, their
Yeah, and
solution to that is that it doesn't kill people with one shot in the chest.
no, I mean the real solution to that would be to remake the game where you have ADS and heavier, bigger weapons take longer to ADS. So you're at a disadvantage using it in close range. They can't do that in Counter Strike, so that's why they do it the way they do. But
Yeah, but a
many
sniper should be
games have
rewarded
this
for
problem.
accuracy.
Well, many games have this problem where they give you a crosshair when you're aiming down sights, and they can't figure out whether they want the crosshair to be a representation, a loose representation of where you're aiming, or an actual indicator where your bullets are going to end up. So
Well, I mean, the
you
whole
should
point
pick
of the
one.
quick scoping is because the AWP kills people in one hit, so you don't even have to shoot them in the head. You might as well just put a fucking bazooka in the game at that point to replace the AWP, because that's how people are using it.
Well, that might be
Sniper
cool.
rifles should be about accuracy, not power. If you want a power weapon, put a fucking rocket launcher in or some shit.
Yeah, but at the same time, most people would die with one shot to the chest of many guns.
Well,
So
that's
it's a
irrelevant.
balance issue.
That's irrelevant. It's Counter Strike is more of an arcade game because it takes like a fucking entire AK mag to kill somebody in that game.
What?
When realistically, it would take like 4 bullets. If
It
to the
does take four
chest,
bullets. Yeah, no, dude, you haven't played Counter Strike in a long time. It does not take it. Counter Strike has a really fast time to kill, and that's why I kind of still enjoy
yeah, if you
playing it
shoot
every
it
now
in
and
the
then.
head.
Well, headshots are one shot kills with the AK, whether you're using a helmet or not, but it doesn't take a whole magazine. I mean, maybe if you're going full auto and all your bullets miss, maybe that's the new thing.
That's how
But
people play the game.
yeah,
They
that's
just
not how I play the game because I'm not
hold
an
down
idiot.
against
I play it the old school way, crouch and tap. And I'm pretty good at Counter Strike for having hardly ever playing it. But it's another one of these games, like I was saying before, that suffers from this problem where they have this crosshair that moves dynamically, but your bullets can still go outside the enclosure of the crosshair. They need to
Yeah.
pick one. I changed the crosshair in that game so that it doesn't move at all because it just fucks up your aim. And if the bullets aren't going to go where your crosshair is anyway, then what's the point of having the crosshair bloom? Either have the crosshair bloom and the bullets stay inside the crosshair, or it's a fixed crosshair and you just accept that the bullets go outside of it. Pick one. That's something that's always pissed me off in these games. But yeah, I'm just in general very much against these cheesy strategies that people use. That one person figures out and uses it, and then it becomes like a meta.
Well,
Totally
people are
not
pieces
meta
of
meta.
shit, and kids are even more of a piece of shit. So,
Yeah.
and video games are mostly kids now. So, video gamers are pieces of shit.
No honor amongst gamers. I remember just for a second having a glimmer of hope that For Honor would maybe kind of attract the type of people that want like a fair fight. But then like the first kind of meta in that game was just fucking stun locking people off of bridges. So I didn't play that game a whole lot. I think I
Can't
played
have
like a
nice
free
things in
weekend,
games,
but
the developer puts that in the game as some kind of cool little thing where, hey, sometimes you're going to be fighting next to a ledge and you might get kicked off, and that'll be cool and funny. But you can't even do that because all that does is lead these shitty people to stand next to the fucking bridges and just stand there and wait for you to come up so they can kick you off and shit. It's so fucking lame. Like, get a fucking life. I'm so sick of it too, because you get these game developers. It's like fucking Fallout. Fallout's like, hey, Bethesda here. We're gonna fucking release Fallout, and it's gonna be online only, and you're gonna have to play against other people. And people are like, yeah, but people are shitty. And Bethesda's like, oh, we don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, because you play internally with people that don't want to be complete assholes, or they'll lose their fucking job. I mean, surely you have some friendly PvP in your offices amongst people, but you don't have like one person exploiting you constantly to try and fuck your day up. Okay.
Well, they actually have put a lot of measures in place to reduce griefing, and I think will work
Yeah,
because
sure
it's
they do.
actually since they've been
They've
talking about
never
this
done
stuff.
this before in their
Yeah,
entire career.
I
So I
know.
don't have any real faith that they're going to be able to figure that out. I mean, there's game developers that have been doing this for a long time and still haven't fucking figured it out.
Well, that's because they don't want to, because their community likes it that way, and I think
Yeah, and
Bethesda.
that's the worst part is that the worst that's the worst part about it is that what'll probably happen is the only people that keep playing Fallout 76 will come out. The people that like Fallout games will stop playing it pretty early on, and the only people left will be these fucking douchebags that want to PvP and grief people.
Well, we'll
And
go
then
into detail
Bethesda
about all that stuff
focuses
next
on that.
week because I want to actually look up. I don't want to talk out of my ass. I want to look up like all the things they're actually doing to reduce griefing. But a lot of it sounds pretty good to the point where people who are into that kind of griefing PvP mentality are actually kind of pissed off. So now you got the people
Make
who want
private
Fallout.
servers.
The people who want to play Fallout are pissed off because there's PvP, and the people who are douchebags are pissed off because they're not going to be able to grief
I
people.
just don't understand the no option thing. Like, just have the option for private servers. I
There
don't
might
understand it.
be. There might be. It's still a ways off. Give it time.
They've said there won't be private servers at launch.
At launch. But, it might not be that bad.
Yeah, sure. All
We'll
right.
see. I'm going to reserve judgment. All right, so quickly want to talk about Destiny 2. So you were saying last week how if they do everything they say they're going to do, it could be a good game. You still don't
Well,
have
I
any
mean,
faith
I'm
in
just talking
Bungie.
about in the content and stuff like that. I'm not talking about in their competence to
Well, yeah, well, I know,
create
but
shit.
it's all kind of related
I mean,
because,
that's one of the reasons why I don't want to go back to it is because every time I do look at a trailer and see something cool or think about stuff like that or hear their promises of the content that's to come, I am immediately reminded of their inability to even like I see I was watching the trailer and it was like all these different contents that they're gonna this expansion and this expansion and this expansion and I was like, wow, all of that looks really cool. And then they're like new guns and I just see the guns and it's fucking reskins of shit that's already out there and I'm like, yeah, okay.
yeah.
New
But,
guns.
so I'm sitting here. I have no intention of playing this game, probably for at least a year. And so
Well,
it's
I'll
kind of
probably
good for me
play
because I
Anthem
don't,
before I play this fucking game. So
yeah, but I don't have to sit there and get pissed off anymore. I can just laugh at, what's going on from the
yeah.
sidelines. So, Forsaken items were dropping before launch. They were in the loot tables and shit before the expansion came out. So I'm like, that's it. Even before the expansion, your incompetence is showing.
Yeah, this is a really easy one to handle. Just don't put the weapons in the game until the expansion comes out. You
Yeah,
know,
I mean, who knows what the reason could be, but let's not forget that it took
I'll tell you what the
over
reason
6 months for
is.
them to fix the raid so that
I'll
you
tell
didn't
you.
have to switch gear in order for your friends to respawn.
I'll tell you what the reason is. The reason is all the guns from that they're talking about, these items, are reskins of current existing items that shoot the same, sound the same, look the same, with a little bit of color difference or something like that. And they put them on the loot tables because they've probably been building them for a while. These are probably like, I feel like Destiny is the type of game where these developers are just putting shit in the game and they're not activating them. They're like, oh, this will be for an event. Like 4 months before an event that they plan on releasing. Like they just have these guys that are just bulk putting guns in the game. He's like his whole job all day long is to come into office and put random stats and random effects on guns and build sets out of them for like, this one will be for the next rally. This one will be for that one, and he puts it in the files and it gets shoved into the next patch and shit like that. And then later down the road, they're like, oh, we can pull from this. We got this shit. We got this shit. That's why all the guns are fucking terrible. Like,
Yeah.
certainly the legendaries are not the legendary. The exotics are nice. Certainly, yeah, sure. But I want normal guns to be completely different. I want completely different normal guns. I want a new type of gun to be introduced.
Well, they are moving snipers and shotguns to
Well, they're doing that with
regular
everything.
weapons.
They did that with everything. They did that before we left.
I didn't. I haven't done that
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, they did. They
I don't
made
think
they
so.
made it to where you can carry um different weapon types in different slots. It's still a power weapon. It's just you can carry Two
No, no,
power
no. This
weapons.
is
Now.
different then because they're not power weapons anymore. I mean, some of them are, like the Legend of Acreus, that exotic. That's still a power
Okay,
weapon.
so you're talking about they're actually adding snipers to like
Yes, they're
the
reducing the
weapon.
power,
Okay.
increasing the ammo.
Oh, great. So they're nerfing those. Okay.
Well, there'll still be the power weapon ones, I'm sure.
I hope so, but I doubt it. I do know before we left, they made it a thing where like you could carry 3 shotguns, but they're all power ammo. So what's the
Yeah,
fucking point?
there is no point because I mean, they probably have changed it. I haven't been keeping up, but
By the way,
why would you have more than
uh,
one of any weapon type? Because
by the way,
when ammo drops, you're just going to not be able to do anything with it, and you're going to run out of ammo.
well, here's the situation that they probably haven't even figured out, and I don't even know if it's become a problem yet. I don't know if this is out yet or if this is like some Forsaken shit that was supposed to happen. I thought it happened before we left. Here's the problem. Ammo doesn't drop unless you're using a different weapon type. If you're walking around with green ammo as a weapon, like you have your green ammo weapon out, right? Your energy weapon, and you're walking around shooting with that energy. It's not energy weapon ammo that drops. It's kinetic. You have to switch to kinetic and start killing with kinetic to get energy ammo to drop.
Well, it's not 100%. That is the case that your chances of getting kinetic is higher if you're using
So
an
if
energy
you're running
weapon.
around with 2 kinetic weapons and a power weapon, you got to switch to your power weapon to get kinetic ammo back at a higher rate.
Yeah.
The solution to this, of course, is
Poor
to go back
bastards
to
still
Destiny
playing that
1
game.
and have ammo packs. Okay, that you can carry around. Yeah, that's enough for Destiny. Whatever. Fuck Destiny.
Fuck Destiny, indeed.
Can't wait for Anthem. Saw a trailer for Anthem the other day. I immediately wanted to play it in the first 5 seconds where I saw 4 dudes standing around in their awesome exoskeleton suits and they just start running off a ledge and just jetpack. And I was like, that's what Destiny was supposed to be. Fucking jetpack flying around.
Have they
shit.
announced a release date for it yet?
Yeah. It's in February.
Oh, so we got time.
Absolutely.
Well, the next game that's coming out that we're probably going to play is Battlefield 5, but it's
got
been
delayed.
delayed till November. So why do you think it got delayed? I know the official story is that they were taking community feedback and wanted to tweak things, which, I mean, I believe them.
Bullshit.
I believe them.
I don't believe it for a second. But they have never put out a beta with the intentions of hearing feedback. Betas are always Battlefield.
Well, this would be
DICE
feedback
EA
from the alphas because the beta's
Well,
not out yet. Beta is
DICE
September 6th, by the way. That's this weekend.
Dice and EA do the same thing, but it's not a beta; it's a demo. Dice and EA, sorry, not Dice. EA and Activision do this thing with Call of Duty and Battlefield where it's not a beta; it's a demo. You can pre-order and get access to the demo. You know, it's a beta, but nothing ever changes from the beta to the launch.
Well,
aside from maybe some
because-
back-end stuff on servers.
Look, the alpha is really the beta, right? That's where they take gameplay feedback.
Dude,
but
I've never
the
heard
open
of
beta,
I understand that.
the open beta is almost always to make sure the servers are running correctly when it has more players on it.
I've never seen companies, except for those 2 companies with those 2 specific games, run a beta for a month. That's about as long as they run. And they don't even run it for a month, by the way. They run it for like a week, a month ahead of time, and then they shut it down, and then the game comes out a couple weeks later. Here's the thing. I don't think they shut it down for feedback. They've never done this before, despite mountains of feedback from people. I think it has 100% everything to do with their pre-order sales. 100%. Now, some people have also said it's because of competition. Okay, Battlefield is releasing around the time of other games, and they wanted to push it back to stop it from competing. But realistically, they're just pushing it into November to compete with Fallout. Granted, those 2 games can compete against each other because they're not the same kind of bag. You know, people that play Battlefield may not really play Fallout, and vice versa. But I think they wanted to avoid, what was it? Oh God, what game were they trying to avoid?
I don't know. When it was supposed to come out in October before they delayed it. Spider-Man?
I can't. Probably not Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else is coming out in October that's... I don't know.
Well, I think it has to do with the pre-order sales being poor. And I don't know if the delay is to like try and Obviously, the reason why their pre-orders are poor is because of the feedback, because of the SJW shit. Listen, I get it, and we try not to talk about this too much, but I'm not going to shove my politics in people's face. But here's a fact of reality. Okay, a couple days ago, maybe more, maybe I'm misremembering. It was released by journalists who clearly lean hard left that In-N-Out Burger, okay, has needs to be boycotted. They're trying to boycott In-N-Out because they found out that In-N-Out donated like $25,000 to the Republican Party. Okay, big fucking surprise. If you look at the bottom of their cups, they got like fucking Bible verses on it and shit. It's a fucking conservative. It's a conservative business, and there's a lot of conservative businesses and there's a lot of liberal businesses. Okay, this idea that like everybody has to be liberal or else is getting fucking ridiculous. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is because so they call for this boycott. You have actual Democratic senators and shit calling for a boycott against In-N-Out. And what's happening right now? The complete fucking opposite. Okay, you look at pictures of fucking In-N-Out, and there's lines. There's fucking lines that are just ridiculous. There's more people supporting right now because that's what happened. It's just like the Chick-fil-A thing. People are like, boycott Chick-fil-A, which was kind of a better reason, by the way. I'm not saying that boycotting is a good idea, but at least that was because they were against gay marriage or some shit instead of just, oh, they donated to their party of choice. The thing is, like, you're just causing them to get more money. So this idea that people have, and I get that a lot of gaming community people are fucking lefties and shit. Fine. That's fine. Be whatever you want politically. I mean, I go to subreddits all the time and it's a lot of Trump hate and shit that are gamers. Like, I get it. Fine. But here's a reality, and that this is something these game companies need to start considering. Fire your PR people, okay? Because they are fucking you over. There is a anytime somebody makes noise, that is a minority of people. The majority is always silent because they're happy, okay? So when Battlefield comes out and they're like, here's a woman with a bionic arm in our trailer, and people say, what the fuck is that about? That's not very historically accurate. You can't start siding with the fucking crazies on the other side, because certainly there are crazies on both sides. There's people in the middle that are like, hold on a minute. That doesn't seem historically accurate. What's going on? And then the crazies on the right side go, what the fuck? Women in video games with fucking cybernetic arms? This is some SJW bullshit. And then the people in the middle go, well, hold on a minute. Maybe it's not SJW. Maybe. And then the far left goes, yes, this is SJW shit. Fuck you. Diversity matters. And then EA comes out and is like, yeah, diversity matters. That's when the people in the middle go, what the fuck? This is SJW shit?
Yeah, plus
then
they come out and they start insulting the people that in the middle and the right, but the middle's much bigger. So they come out and say, like, if you don't like it, play another game. And the people in the middle who didn't care before are now all of a sudden out of spite, like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, well, fuck you. Because people are principled. Most people are principled. Sure, the crazies on the right are fucking retarded. Oh, there shouldn't be that many women in video games. Who fucking cares if the model is a female? Who fucking cares? You're not going to pay attention. But the people on the left need to chill the fuck out too, because let me tell you something. The crazy people on the left that are saying, yes, diversity matters, they probably don't even play video games. Anita Sarkeesian doesn't even play video games. But I saw her video game collection. Yeah, with like violent ass games where you shoot people and their heads explode, like Fallout New Vegas, right? That was in her video game collection. And then she got
that was the first thing that happened in that game. He fucking gets shot in the head.
And then she gets pissed off at Doom at E3 when they showed that off because it's too violent. Give me a fucking break. You people are being conned out of your fucking minds. And all these fucking developers, their PR people, are these SJW idiots who are ruining shit for them. You cannot pick a side as a company and make money. You want to be artsy, that's fine. All EA had to do was come out and say, well, we believe in allowing our artists to spread their artistic ideas, no matter who agrees or disagrees with it. This isn't a diversity thing. And so many fucking groups are doing this now where they're like, diversity matters. No, it doesn't. They're like, Jesus fucking Christ. I just want games to be games, okay? I don't give a fuck how many women or men are in it. If you want to put more women in video games, do it. But shut the fuck up about it. Don't be coming up saying, hey, guess what? We put this character in the game because diversity matters. Fucking Bungie did it too with that Anna Bray chick. It's important to me because diversity matters. Bitch, fuck you, okay? I'm sitting here in my house playing this fucking game. I make barely enough money to fucking play your shitty game. You're working at fucking Bungie Studios as a goddamn artist drawing shit for a living, and you're like, hey, diversity matters. Go fuck yourself. You are the most represented fucking people on the planet in terms of just seeing yourself and everything, because you have the power to do that. You literally have the power to draw any character to look like you or people like you. And then you're going to come out and be like, there's white people everywhere putting Asian people on the back burner. It's like, are you fucking insane? Are you fucking retarded? What are you talking about?
Keep politics out of my entertainment.
Please. Can we just have video games without your goddamn politics? That's all I want. Okay? You want to have politics? Do politics. Okay? EA, you want to get into politics? Open up a branch and call it EA Politics, and you can just have you can just produce shitty political games or something that nobody will fucking play. Jesus Christ. And then they're like, yeah, we're going to push the game back. I think they're pushing the game back because they're trying to fix the problem.
Yep, and I told you in the first podcast that every now and then you'd get a very compelling political rant from Gabler, and there it was.
It's not even really political. It's just about common sense.
No, I know, but hold on. Let's go. So on Origin, Battlefield 5 is still listed as coming out October 19th. They haven't changed it. So your pre-orders, they're pre-order stuff. Early access to the Battlefield 5 open beta, special assignments, and a special soldier set that can be chosen from 8 available sets in Battlefield 5. They always do this. I don't know what any of that means because I haven't played the game. It's like they're so into their own lingo and what they're going to call things that's supposed to have some kind of meaning. I don't know. But the early access to the open beta is going to be September 4th. It'll be open to everyone September 6th. But then this is interesting. Immediate access to 5 Battlefield 1 weapons ready for use in Battlefield 1. Unlock 5 of the Great War's most modern weapons and bridge the technological gap between the 2 world wars. I mean, sounds good, but not really going to get me to pre-order. You know, like, why would I pre-order so I can play the older Battlefield game? And trust me, I do want to play Battlefield 1
in Battlefield 5 as well.
No. It says immediate access to 5 Battlefield 1 weapons ready for use in Battlefield 1.
Oh, okay.
So I get it. They're trying to bridge the gap. They've always done this. So as they release expansions for Battlefield 1, it's supposed to be like moving forward in the timeline.
This podcast redact my statement about all the SJW shit. You know, when the game comes out a month from now and core gameplay has been changed. But I'm not an idiot. I understand that if they can pull it off, sure. But I understand, as a gamer that's been playing games for 20 fucking years of my life, I understand that, like, you cannot change core gameplay in a fucking month. It doesn't happen.
Well, they never said they were trying to do that. Their official statement was that
their statement. We're going to take the time to continue to make some final adjustments to core gameplay.
Adjustments.
Whatever the fuck that means, that doesn't happen right before launch. Nobody makes those kind of shit.
Well, I mean, Blizzard does.
Yeah, well, Blizzard's fucking stupid.
Yeah, they are. But I just want a smooth launch for this game.
Allowing DICE to make changes like that right before the game comes out when people are already expecting something. So you sell the game to people on pre-orders and shit like that with the game being a certain way, and then suddenly you're like, well, we're going to take a month and do some adjustments to core gameplay. How about you tell me what those fucking adjustments are? Because if I've pre-ordered the game, maybe I want to cancel my pre-order if you're changing something that I think is a good fucking idea. No, that's not what's happening. I guarantee you the game comes out in a month exactly in the state it's in right fucking now. 100%.
Well, I'm just saying that what you're saying could be a possibility. What I'm saying could also be a possibility, or it could be a little bit of both, because I'm just looking at these pre-order bonuses. 2 days early access to the open beta and 5 weapons for Battlefield 1. Maybe it's just their pre-order sales are low because it's not worth pre-ordering, you know?
Their pre-order sales are low because people are upset because they told them not to buy the game. Nobody likes
that's
that.
part of it, but I mean, that's not all of it. I'm just looking at this stuff, and there's
Well,
nothing here.
it's the same thing that's happening to Star Wars. You know,
There's not even
people,
anything here for the actual Battlefield 5 game that you get for pre-ordering. So
well,
why?
there's never really anything good for pre-ordering. People just pre-order to fucking, I don't know.
Well, I mean, sometimes there is.
We'll
At
see
least
when the
there's,
sales
but
come
even
out.
if it's not good, at least there's something. But there's nothing here for the actual game.
I don't know. All I'm saying is the in and out thing. EA. There's been a lot of other examples. When you take a political side, it does not help you. Either side you pick. And I get that people on the left think that there's a lot of them and a few of the other people. Us, me, okay? People like me. But you're wrong, okay? If anything, it's split down near the fucking middle, as it always has been and always will be. It will always be a near even split down the middle, or else one party's going to disappear forever. That's how it works. And what that means is they just form a new party, by the way. It doesn't mean that they join yours. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this. They're not doing the premium anymore, like they did with Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1. Now they're trying to push their premier access thing. So right now I have the basic, which is $4.99 a month, $30 a year, which gives you access to all those games, blah, blah, blah. But now they have the premier version, which is $15 a month or $100 a year.
Yeah, I'm not cool with that. I'm not okay
Extra
with
content
this kind of
for
shit.
Battlefield 5 Deluxe Edition.
I'm not okay
Early
with them doing
access,
these kinda,
instead
like,
of getting a
split
10-hour
stuff.
trial, you get the full game in early access. You get 139 games instead of 131, and you get 10% off Origin purchases. I don't see it, because I'm looking down. They have this little comparison chart. So there's 3 versions: Standard Edition, Deluxe Edition, and Exclusive to Premier, which is not available yet. They all get the game, obviously. Early access to Battlefield 5 Open Beta. They all get that if you pre-order. Early access to Battlefield 5 itself, you don't get that with the Standard Edition. You get it with the Deluxe and the Premier. Paratrooper gear. At launch, choose from 8 special soldier sets available and customizable, and sets available and customize your troops. 1 set for Standard, 6 sets for Deluxe, 6 sets for Premier. Immediate access to 5 Battlefield 1 weapons. All the pre-orders get that. Standard Edition Special Assignments. All editions get that for a pre-order. Deluxe Edition Special Assignments. Deluxe and Premier Edition only gets that. 20 weekly items with Airlift. Deluxe and Premier Edition gets that. So, from what I'm seeing here, upgrading to Premier gets you absolutely nothing extra out of Battlefield 5. Above the Deluxe Edition.
Yeah.
You get
And
some stuff.
Here's the issue with that. I could just buy the game one time for $60 fucking, and I never have to pay you monthly continued. They're really fucking dropping the ball on this thing. I think they should have just stuck with their base subscription concept with their vault, where games eventually go.
Yeah, they
onto
still have that.
vault for free. Yeah, but that's what it should be. This whole Premiere thing is just stupid, and all it does is set them up to be able to divide the community into, oh, this isn't going into the vault for another 2 years or some shit, because they want you to get the Premiere. So if you're out there, game developers, don't fucking make multiple subscription tiers to your fucking services. Okay?
Especially like this. I mean, you get maybe 5% more value, but you're paying 3 times as much. That makes no fucking sense to me.
Well, and the worst thing is you're just gonna alienate the people who pay the lower subscription tier by doing a higher subscription. You're not fucking Netflix, all right? You don't provide a service like that. You don't have access to as much shit as Netflix does. I pay $11 for Netflix, and they have thousands.
Oh, no, wait. Hold on. Here's the deal. You can't pre-order the Deluxe Edition unless you have Premiere.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
More
So
stupid
you're not getting early access to Battlefield 5. You're getting 1 set of paratrooper gear.
Listen, EA, here's a tip. I know that money is important because you're a corporation. I'm not against that, okay? Here's what I am. I'm just giving you a tip, okay? Don't tell people that you want money. Pretend you don't want money while you secretly want money, okay? That's how it works. Just be Ubisoft, you know? They want money too, and they make money. But they don't fucking throw it around all the time. Hey, you have to subscribe to this, be able to order this, my dudes. It's so fucking clearly obvious, man. And not necessary, by the way. Not even necessary. It does nothing for you. Oh no, we made it to where people could pre-order the digital deluxe edition without Premiere. Oh,
so yeah, they're trying to do this whole, oh yeah, we're pushing the game back. Pre-order sales are low, and now that I'm looking at it, I understand why the pre-order sales are low. Like, not only do I have to pay more for the deluxe edition of the game, which is $71.99 with the discount, but then I gotta, if I want the deluxe edition, I have to sign up for $14.99 a month Premiere for absolutely nothing. Like, you don't even get anything for pre-ordering that you can use in Battlefield 5. So yeah, that's why your pre-order sales are low.
There's a lot of reasons for the pre-order sales to be low. I really do. But I think the reason why they're delaying is because the pre-order sales are low. They can't release Battlefield 1 to the success that it was and then come with Battlefield 5 and then I mean their investors are going to be like, what the fuck is going on? DICE, EA, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, that's it for that. I think we got a little bit more Spider-Man we can talk about. Just a little bit.
I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I don't understand the hype. I don't understand all the hype behind it. I just want to talk
about one thing about it, which is the graphics situation. Okay.
Go for it.
All right. So I understand there's a lot of gamers out there that don't understand how graphics in video games work. Seeker and I are PC gamers primarily. Graphics is our jam. It's what we do. Okay. Every time a new game comes out, and Seeker more so than me, everything is like, okay, let's optimize this shit for my system right now. Before I even play this game, I'm going into the video options or the display options, and I'm figuring this shit out. Okay. One of the big problems right now is people are linking around all these images where, like, well, this is what it looked like at E3 and this is what it looks like now. Yeah, because that's how it works. You see, when something is set up for an E3 presentation, it's still being worked on. Now, here's the weird thing to me. I'm going to try to get a picture if I can so that you can see what I'm talking about.
They're not going to be able to see this. This is a podcast.
Yeah, but I want you to see it.
Okay.
I don't give a fuck about them. They can look it up. No, I want you to see what people are talking about. So I'm going to link this here in Discord. It's an admin here. Fuck it. So check that out. So the problem that people are having is, and can we stop putting gate at the end of everything, by the way?
Puddlegate.
Right?
Jesus.
Just fucking stop. It's not even a big deal. So if you look at the image from E3 versus release, the release looks better. And I'll tell you why it looks better. Because everybody out there is fucking wrong. Okay? Oh, but you can see more reflections. Look at all the reflections in the water. That is so fucking unrealistic. Water on the ground doesn't reflect like that. Okay? It may be in large pools, but just water like on the ground. By the way, why is there so much fucking water on the ground?
Why is there so much water on Spider-Man? He looks all shiny and shit.
Yeah, it's not raining on him here. So they decided to... So one of the things the game developer talked about is it was a different time of day and that there's weather systems in the game and shit like that. So the E3, you see... But people are like, yeah, but there's more reflections in that. Yeah, because they toned down the reflections.
Or there's just less water. I mean, there's not as much water in the release photo. Maybe it's a different time of day. There was less rain. Who knows?
Well, they definitely came out and said that it was a different time of day. You can also see, like, if you look at the shadow at his knee on the right side, the shadow on the right, on the bottom is correct. The shadow on the top is incorrect. Okay? Shadows aren't like, shadows are, they don't obscure. Like, get a light source and put your hand over something and look at the shadow. It doesn't obscure. It's not black. Your shadow isn't this black thing that obscures everything underneath it. It adds a shade. You can still see what's underneath it, even the color of what's underneath it. Like, I have a light right now. I'm putting my hand over this fucking bagel. I can still see the bagel and the color of the bagel. It's not just a black bagel all of a sudden. Okay? So people are like, oh, it looks worse. If you look at there's other shots where you can see the shadow of the building on the building in the far back left. The shadow in the bottom part is softer. The shadow at the top is harder edges. We just learned about this at the NVIDIA conference. The one at the bottom is better. Okay, shadows are soft. They're not. They're not these like very rigid things. So they said they took out some of the water because the first of all, water is a system hog. So let me tell you how games work. Game community. Whenever a reflection exists in the game, it's not like real life where nothing has to be processed. Okay, all of this shit's being processed on a fucking computer. So you have to double the image. You're seeing two images of the same thing. That's double on textures and everything else in reflections. Now, there are some smart AI systems that do that these days.
Ray tracing is going to be making that a lot easier. So
yeah, and ray tracing's not out for this game. This is not a ray tracing game. It's not going to be on the new NVIDIA shit. So it's it's coming out in a couple days. The fucking graphics card's not even out yet, is it? Or it just came out?
September 20th is the first wave.
Okay, so you're dealing with a situation where they decided to tone down the reflections so it can run on other people's computers. Well, it's not computers, sorry, on PlayStations. Yeah. It's a PlayStation only game. So they had to tone it down so it can run on non-pro PlayStation. They probably showed a pro gameplay at E3, and then they toned it down so that people without pros can play it. Because you don't want to be playing a fucking play. So what do you want? You want the game to look like it's from E3? Or do you want the game to fucking have jitters, or do you want the game to play smoothly and still look good? Because I'm looking at these two images, and this isn't like a Ubisoft thing. They're trying to relate this to like the Ubisoft shit, where Ubisoft had Division looking like this, and then it came out like that. That game was on PC. There's no excuse for that. This is a console title. The game on the bottom looks just as good as the one on the top. Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, the one on the top, I mean, I think the water and the reflections do look good. I don't think the bottom one looks worse. There's just less water, so there's less reflections. But Spider-Man looks like he's covered in wax on the top, and he looks like he's actually wearing clothes on the bottom.
Yeah, cloth.
So yeah, I don't know what that's about.
And this is the only image, by the way. This one image.
Yeah, and first of all, games most always look better as a still image. Like, take like Shadow of Mordor or the second one, Shadow of War, right? Yeah. You play the game, and yeah, the game looks good when it's in motion, but like, just pause it in photo mode and look around. Look at all the expressions on everyone's faces. Like, that's happening in real time, but you never notice it. So there's not really a whole lot to gain from looking at two still photos and comparing them. Like, ooh, yeah, the reflections. Guess what? When you're playing the game, how it runs, the frame rate, how consistent it is, that's all going to look way better to you than this still frame of reflections. You're not even going to notice the reflections. Whenever I have the option to turn the reflection resolution down, I always turn it down to half resolution. There's no reason to have reflections with full resolution because, like you said, you're doubling the amount of rendering it's doing.
While you're watching it, but while you're playing it, you're not paying a fucking attention to it. You're playing the game. Now, the developers have come out and said it's just a change in puddle size. There's no downgrading, and that it definitely wasn't a performance issue, as they have spots with tons of puddles in the game with no performance problems. So it had nothing to do with performance.
Yeah, and they're being very political about their
political about it. I disagree. I think it probably is a little bit of a performance because developers do this. They remove some stuff.
Well, you know that there's someone behind the scenes just thinking like, why the fuck do they care about puddles so much?
Yeah. Who fucking cares? But certainly this happens to games. This is a game development process. When you make a game, you make it, you build all the assets and stuff like that, and you get it running, and then the art team does a first pass on it. And then after time goes by, the art teams do multiple passes on things because sometimes some things are just done way too much or whatever. Personally, I don't think the puddles look that great in the top image. I think it's too reflecty. Certainly some areas would have reflections, like the back left puddles in the top.
Well, it looks like the sun is right outside that window, so there's more bloom coming from that window, and then that leads to more reflections in the thing. So, I mean, I think it looks good, but I don't think puddles always look like that unless you're at just the right angle, which apparently they were.
Every angle's correct for this entire puddle. Well, if you look at the bottom one, it's more realistic. The puddle on the bottom right has reflection in it, but that's because the angle. The puddle right in front of him to the bottom left a bit, no reflection. It's just like a dark spot where it's wet. That's how puddles usually are. They reflect things at angles because that's how water works. So the top one was probably changed because it was just too fucking much. You can actually see the puddles are in different locations here too. It's not just like they removed some of the puddle. I'm assuming that there's weather mechanics in the game. That's why Spider-Man was wet, and he'll probably look like that when he gets wet in the game. I mean, whatever.
I don't know. I'm not really that worried about it. I mean, it's PlayStation exclusive.
Puddlegate.
It's PlayStation exclusive, so I'm not going to be able to stream it to the quality that meets my standards. So I'm not going to.
By the way, can I just throw this out here at the end of the podcast? Gamers, graphics don't matter. Certainly, games looking good is important and nice, but there are a lot of games out there that don't look top of the line, and the gameplay is fucking marvelous. Good graphics is a plus. Okay, it's a luxury, a nice little luxury to have. It can make a game a little bit better. If Minecraft looked modern, it probably would suck based off how it is. It would be just weird.
Yeah, as it is, it sucks because it still doesn't run very well.
Well, you look at certain games, like look at Dead Cells. We talked about that earlier in the podcast. The game is it's like a classic retro game, right?
It's like a 16-bit kind of thing.
Yeah, it looks good. It plays good. Certainly the game could be like full 3D with fucking, mesh models and everything, and it would look great. But either way, it's fine. And honestly, I think it looks better as a retro pixel game because it kind of has a little bit of
well, you just have to differentiate between art style and actual graphics. Because for me personally, I was playing Sleeping Dogs again the other day, and that game still looks good. Not great, but good. Good enough. And it runs at a solid 120 plus frames per second.
Well, look at Shenmue.
It's much more enjoyable to play a game at a high, consistent frame rate than it is to play it at like 4K.
Look at Shenmue. Nobody that likes Shenmue is going to have a problem playing Shenmue with the way it looks. That's evidence that graphics don't really matter if the gameplay is good, because that's what people that have played Shenmue know how fun the game is. So they don't care that the graphics are downgraded. I mean, certainly they wouldn't be against it being updated to modern day standards, but it's not a negative impact on them if it's not like that.
Yeah.
Gamers need to chill out.
I mean, I enjoy having good graphics,
Listen, you keep putting all of this emphasis on graphics, all you're going to get left with is shitty games that look good, because that's what the developers are going to focus on.
Yep.
Gameplay first.
Hashtag gameplay first. Put it out there, everyone.
Well, that's it for me, I think. I can't.
Yeah, that's all I got. So,
go to a thing.
You can find us on Twitch and Twitter. You can find me at twitch.tv/Seeker127. On Twitter, Seeker127 Gaming. If you search for Seeker127 or Seeker127 Gaming on pretty much anything from Facebook to YouTube to Twitter to Twitch, you'll find me. This podcast comes out each and every Sunday, so be sure to look forward to that next week. Gabler, you got anything to say?
Yeah. You can find me on Twitch.
All right. Thanks for listening, everyone.
/the Gabler. That's Gabler, Gabler. And then Twitter, I made a mistake last week. It's not the Gabler. It's that's what it says, but the actual handle is at TG Gabler. So that's 1, 2, 3. TGG Abler.
Should probably change that. That's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I should. Yeah.
All right, so the next stream will be Tuesday. Be sure to check that out. We'll both be streaming something. Probably World of Warcraft, because they got that whatever the fuck is coming out. Right? Am I right about that? Yeah. Okay. So, that's probably what we'll be doing. Have a happy Labor Day, everyone. Thanks for listening. And you'll hear us next time on electronic gaming, mostly. Later.
Peace.